What if chaos is the key to your freedom? You have been taught to run from it, to avoid it as if it were poison. Your teachers, your parents, your governments, each drilled into you the same illusion, that chaos is the enemy and order is salvation. Yet tell me, has order liberated you? Has it brought you mastery, sovereignty, or greatness? Or has it instead made you obedient, fragile, predictable? Look at yourself with brutal honesty. You cling to routines, you worship predictability, you chase stability as if it were air, and still, deep within, you feel the sickness of stagnation. Why? Because what you call stability is only slow decay. What you call comfort is the death of vitality. Nietzsche saw this centuries ago. He declared that chaos is not to be feared but embraced, for within it lives the possibility of transformation. One must still have chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star. Do you hear the weight of those words? He is telling you that without chaos, you will never transcend. You will never create, you will never rise, and yet you recoil. Why? Because chaos is uncertainty. It threatens your illusions. It strips away the fragile armor of identity you've constructed. Society tells you that who you are is defined by your job, your possessions, your social status. But strip those away. What remains? You are terrified of that answer. You are terrified of finding out what you really are when the false walls crumble. Understand this. Chaos is not destruction. It is revelation. It is the fire that burns away illusions. It is the earthquake that shakes the weak foundations until only the strongest stones remain. You must ask yourself, do you wish to live as a fragile structure, collapsing at the first tremor, or will you fortify yourself into a fortress that no storm can shatter? But here lies the paradox. Fortresses are not built in calm weather. They are built during storms. Men of power are not forged in comfort, but in chaos. Consider Alexander, who marched into unknown lands with no guarantee of return. Consider Diogenes, who rejected all conventions and lived like a mad dog, free of society's chains. Consider Machiavelli, who taught that power demands ruthlessness, not moral conformity. Each of them walked willingly into chaos and emerged untouchable. The herd cannot do this. The herd craves safety, and for safety, they sell their freedom. They want the illusion of permanence, though permanence does not exist. Death is certain, betrayal is inevitable, fortune is fickle, and when the storm comes, the herd breaks. They beg for rescue, they surrender their sovereignty, they cling to whoever promises stability. That is why the herd will always be ruled, because they cannot stand in the storm. You must not be like them. You must become the man who welcomes chaos, who drinks from it like water, who turns it into his weapon. For the less you fear chaos, the less you can be controlled. Think of it. Society manipulates you by your fear of disorder. Governments promise order, so you obey. Religions promise eternal order, so you kneel. Relationships promise emotional order, so you submit. But if you no longer fear chaos, these chains break. You become untouchable. This is the foundation of sovereignty. He who embraces chaos cannot be ruled. He becomes what Nietzsche envisioned, the Übermensch, the higher man who creates his own order out of disorder. The weak are broken by uncertainty, but the strong use it to build thrones. The weak curse misfortune, but the strong forge new weapons from the rubble. Ask yourself, when life betrayed you, did you collapse? Did you wallow? Did you beg for pity? Or did you use it, coldly, ruthlessly, to sharpen your will? If you crumbled, you are still a slave to order. If you rose, you have glimpsed the power of chaos. But glimpses are not enough. You must learn to live there in the storm, unflinching. Look to nature. The sea does not apologize when it drowns men. The wolf does not ask permission before it hunts. The avalanche does not hesitate out of kindness. Nature thrives through chaos, and yet man, the supposed pinnacle of evolution, fears it like a child. Tell me, is this strength, or is it cowardice dressed as civility? The cold genius, the untouchable man, does not fear nature's law. He mirrors it. He becomes indifferent to loss, betrayal, collapse. Why? Because he has already embraced the truth that nothing is permanent, that life is chaos. He builds his sovereignty not on illusions of stability, but on his capacity to endure, to adapt, to thrive regardless of circumstances. The herd will call him ruthless. They will call him dangerous. They will call him inhuman. But those are the words of the weak, terrified of anyone who refuses to share in their fragility. Power is always demonized by the powerless. But tell me, is it better to be praised as weak or feared as strong? which will protect you when the storm comes, which will allow you to stand alone while others collapse. So I ask you again, what if chaos is the key to your freedom? Will you continue to live as a servant of order, fragile and manipulable, or will you step into the storm and claim your sovereignty? Will you remain a child clinging to illusions, or will you become the man who walks unshaken through ruin, untouched by fear and crowned by chaos itself? Because once you understand that chaos is not a curse but a crucible, the next question arises: how do you use it? Power does not come merely from surviving chaos. It comes from mastering it, from bending its unpredictable energy into deliberate strategy. A man must understand this. Most people drown not because chaos is too strong, but because they have never learned how to swim. They resist, they flail, they scream for help, and so they sink. But the man who observes calmly, who accepts the waves instead of fighting them, he finds that chaos carries him to shores others never see. This is the principle of psychological manipulation, and it begins with yourself. If you cannot govern your own fear, you will always be governed by the one who can. Look around you. Why are people so easily manipulated? Because they crave certainty. Offer them comfort, and they kneel. Threaten them with instability, and they obey. Their emotions are the handles by which anyone can steer them. They are puppets, and their strings are fear and desire. You must cut those strings in yourself. You must become sovereign over your emotions, not their slave. Ask yourself, when someone insults you, why do you feel rage? Because you are still bound to their recognition. When someone abandons you, why do you feel despair? Because you are still bound to their validation. Do you see how fragile this makes you? The untouchable man feels the emotion, but it does not command him. He governs it as a rider governs a horse, useful for momentum, but never allowed to dictate direction. This is why Machiavelli insisted that it is safer for a ruler to be feared than loved. Love is conditional, fragile, fleeting. Fear, when properly cultivated, is stable. And yet, true mastery is subtler than mere cruelty. The dark empath understands that both love and fear are illusions to be wielded. He knows how to mirror the desires of others, how to reflect their emotions back to them, how to give the impression of compassion while remaining untouched internally. To manipulate others, you must first master the performance of attachment while retaining the reality of detachment. Society despises this truth, yet it practices it constantly. Look at governments, corporations, religions. They all manipulate by playing on your fears and desires. They promise stability in exchange for obedience. They sell you illusions of belonging, salvation, security. And you, like a desperate addict, buy them because you cannot bear to face chaos on your own. If you cannot conquer this weakness, then you will forever be conquered through it. But consider the inversion. Once you are no longer desperate for belonging, no longer terrified of instability, you become impossible to control. Imagine a man who does not beg for approval, who does not crumble at betrayal, who does not fear solitude. What can be done to him? Nothing. He becomes untouchable. This is emotional sovereignty, the first true throne of power. Ask yourself, do you truly own your emotions, or are you owned by them? Every outrage you feel on social media, every pang of jealousy, every wave of anxiety, it is proof that you are still ruled. You are not free. You are a marionette dancing to stimuli engineered by those who understand you better than you understand yourself. Tech companies, advertisers, politicians, they know your cravings, your fears, your weaknesses. They know that with a single image, a single word, they can make you feel what they want you to feel. That is how you are controlled. The untouchable man breaks this cycle. He becomes the observer, not the puppet. He studies his emotions like a strategist studies the battlefield, coldly, analytically, without flinching. Rage is just energy. Desire is just movement. Fear is just information. He is never consumed by them. Instead, he directs them. He can act ruthless when necessary, gentle when useful, indifferent when advantageous. He plays the roles society demands, but he never forgets that they are roles. This is how he manipulates, without being manipulated. Diogenes understood this in his own way. He lived in poverty, mocked power, rejected every illusion of status. Why? Because he knew that the man who needs nothing cannot be controlled. When Alexander the Great asked him what he wanted, Diogenes replied, "Stand out of my sunlight." That is sovereignty, freedom born not from wealth or armies, but from indifference to need. The less you require, the less you can be ruled. This is why Nietzsche declared, "The less you need, the more powerful you are." Lao Tzu, from another corner of the world, said the same. He who conquers others is strong, but he who conquers himself is mighty. Do you see the pattern? Across centuries, across cultures, the masters of truth all whispered the same heresy, that freedom does not lie in order, in wealth, in control over others, but first in mastery over the chaos within. But let us not veil the ruthlessness of this path. To conquer yourself, you must first destroy your illusions, and illusions die screaming. You must kill the belief that others will save you. You must kill the belief that stability is real. You must kill the belief that kindness will be rewarded. These are lies the herd repeats to keep itself docile. If you cling to them, you will forever be weak. This is why Nietzsche spoke of the death of God, not merely as a critique of religion, but as a symbolic execution of the illusions that bind you. The moment you stop expecting divine order, cosmic justice, or karmic fairness, you stand naked before chaos. That nakedness is terrifying, but it is also the first taste of sovereignty. You no longer wait to be saved, you begin to build yourself, and here lies the secret. Once you have slain your illusions, you become free to play with them. To the herd, illusions are chains. To you, they become tools. You can wield morality when it suits you, discard it when it doesn't. You can present empathy to disarm, or coldness to dominate. You can mimic the herd's values when useful, but never be bound by them. This is the essence of manipulation, to live outside the cage while convincing others you are still inside it. Society will call this hypocrisy, but hypocrisy is simply another word for strategy. Do you think kings and rulers ever truly lived by the moral codes they demanded from the masses? Number. They built those codes precisely to control the masses. A ruler who lived by them sincerely would be devoured by his rivals. So must you. Demand illusions from others, but never from yourself. Ask yourself, do you wish to remain one of the deceived, or do you wish to become one of the deceivers? Harsh question, but necessary. Power is not given to the honest. It is taken by the cunning. And cunning requires that you see the world as it is, not as it pretends to be. Do not mistake this for cruelty without reason. The untouchable man does not waste energy on pointless malice. He does not destroy recklessly because he does not need to. He is indifferent to praise, indifferent to hatred. His actions are precise, calculated, necessary. He does not seek to be loved, nor even to be feared, only to remain sovereign, untouchable, beyond the reach of manipulation. So now you see, embracing chaos is not simply about survival, it is about dominance. It is about freeing yourself from emotional slavery so that you can wield illusions rather than be strangled by them. It is about becoming the cold genius, the dark empath, the man who moves unseen through the herd, directing their strings while remaining unbound himself. And as you grasp this truth, another question arises. If you could live in such a way, unruled by fear, unbound by illusion, untouchable in the storm, what could stop you from becoming not merely free, but powerful beyond measure? And this is where the path converges. Chaos embraced, illusions slain, sovereignty claimed. But the question still lingers. What kind of life will you create now that you stand free from the chains that once held you? For freedom without direction is not power, it is drift. Sovereignty is not an end in itself. It is a weapon, a throne, a vantage point from which you must choose your design. Nietzsche's challenge of the eternal recurrence was not merely philosophy, it was a brutal test of your will. Live in such a way that you would welcome the repetition of your life, endlessly, without alteration. Most recoil at this thought because their lives are filled with compromise, cowardice, avoidance. Could you live your same mediocrity 1,000 times? Or would you rather forge a life so sharp, so sovereign, that eternal repetition would be triumph, not torment? The untouchable man chooses the latter. He does not live passively, waiting for chaos to spare him. He does not hope for salvation or recognition. He creates deliberately, ruthlessly, as though chiseling his fate into stone. This is why he appears dangerous, because he lives without apology, without need for permission, without bowing to illusions. Machiavelli would tell you that such a man is both feared and respected, though he seeks neither. His aim is not love nor fear, but effectiveness. He acts as necessity demands, indifferent to praise or condemnation. The herd cannot comprehend this indifference, for they are ruled by opinion. They act to be liked, to be accepted, to be affirmed. But the untouchable man acts only to be sovereign. That is why he rises above them. And what of relationships? Here lies another cruel truth. The modern mind binds itself with chains called love, loyalty, permanence. But permanence does not exist. and loyalty evaporates when tested by power or desire. The dark empath understands this. He does not despise relationships, but he does not worship them either. He enters them knowingly, detached, aware that every bond is temporary, every promise fragile. This awareness is what allows him to remain sovereign while others are shattered by betrayal. Ask yourself, why do you suffer when betrayed? Because you expected permanence. Why do you suffer when abandoned? Because you tied your worth to another's presence. The untouchable man cannot be abandoned because he never surrendered himself in the first place. He cannot be betrayed because he expects betrayal as the natural expression of chaos. This is not cynicism, it is clarity. Such clarity transforms how you move in the world. You no longer beg for stability, you leverage instability. You no longer chase belonging, you exploit it when useful. You no longer fear the collapse of your illusions, you orchestrate the collapse of others. The throne of sovereignty is not built on loyalty or order, it is built on indifference to their fragility. And here is the inversion. By needing nothing, you gain everything. By releasing illusions, you become the master of them. By embracing chaos, you find order within yourself that no storm can touch. This is the paradox at the heart of greatness. The man who accepts uncertainty becomes the most certain force in any room. So, what remains? The call, the decision, to continue as you are, fragile, dependent, swayed by every tide, or to step into chaos willingly, ruthlessly, and crown yourself with sovereignty. You cannot serve two masters. Either you serve comfort or you serve freedom. Either you serve illusion or you serve truth. The storm will come regardless. The herd will break. Illusions will collapse. The only question is, will you collapse with them or will you rise above, untouchable, sovereign, and free? Choose.